Hello, Martin. Welcome. And hello, everyone who is joining us by streaming. Thanks for being here for our latest installment of Jewish Wisdom for Coping with the Pandemic. Today, we are going to be talking about the soul trait of honor. But before then, hey, Joanne, welcome. Nice to see you. We're going to start with a meditation, as is our custom. So please relax in your chair, close your eyes, take a deep breath through the nose and hold. Exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you go at your own speed of inhaling and exhaling, if thoughts should come into your head, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car move past on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Hello, Carrie, welcome. Okay. Sorry, I left 3 PowerPoint presentations open and I'm not sure which is the correct one. So I'm just going to take a second and confirm that. Okay, it is this one. Close these other 2. All right, we will get started with a question. And honor, a lot of it has to do with honoring the divine spark in other people. And one of the traps that we can fall into is judgment. And so I want to talk about judgment a little bit. And starting, how does it feel to judge other people? Do you do it without even noticing? Does it bring you a certain sense of superiority and satisfaction? Does it make you feel guilty? Again, there are no right or wrong answers. And I have to say, as an aside, my wife and I went to Eckhart Tolle speak a few weeks ago, and he was incredible. And he's got a great sense of humor too. And early on, he said, well, some of you are still finding your seats, but we're all very enlightened here. So there's no judgment, or no one will be judging anyone. So we will not judge you for whatever answer you may come up with on this topic. So Paul or Carrie, I see one of you has raised a hand.
Since starting Mussar, I still judge people, but I catch myself and say, okay, I'm making this statement in my head. Is it valid? And I tell myself to try to think of, try to find a divine spark and I question my judgments. So I'm still judging, but I'm realizing it and trying to redo it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's kind of a form of teshuva. It's like, yeah, I have this automatic reaction. Oh, there's a judgment. Oh, wait, how can we reframe? Is that kind of the right way to go? Thank you. Joanne.
Yeah, I think I do a lot of judging in the car. And which is one of the reasons I don't like driving and why I never drive on Sabbath and holidays, because inevitably somebody's going to piss me off. They're going to wait till they get to the corner to put on their turn signal, and I'm right behind them. Or, will do something or cut me off, or whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, you schmuck, jerk, or whatever. And then I go, sorry, Hashem. Immediately, because the other person can't hear me. One time I had my window open, but I do this thing, I speak like nonsense, and and he was like, what did you say? And I said, it doesn't mean anything. And it really didn't. But he was mad at me because we were both looking for parking in the Bronx and by, I guess it was Montefiore. No, yeah, Montefiore. And I found a spot. And he was mad because I found it first, so. But anyway, but I found that there is a person that I know very well in my congregation, and I have a lot of dealings with her, and I've had a lot of issues with her. And I think maybe partly because of my diagnosis, she's been a lot nicer to me, and I've been a lot nicer to her. I appreciate that. And then there's somebody else in our group who I didn't used to get pissed off at, and now I do. And so I don't know, I'm still working on that one. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I think it's so interesting that, the judgment of other drivers is accompanied by irritation, and to, not spoil your Shabbat, you don't drive. I love that. Love that. Yes, Martin.
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I think, if I'm upset of a driver in front of me, I think that's anger. That's not judgment, right? Okay. I think that's just anger. Yeah. My comment to your question though about when I do judge, I get a sense of superiority, and then I catch myself right away, and then I unjudge that person. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that seems to be, that's part of the dynamic, it's sort of like, okay, we can feel a little better judging other people, but our initial reaction isn't their only reaction, as you and a couple others have pointed out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martin. Karen.
So I'm just wondering, when you ask about judgment and judging people, are we only talking about our disappointments and frustrations? Or do people think about a judgment thought that's really positive and a compliment?
That's an interesting question. So if you are thinking about someone positively, how does that feel? It says in Pirkei Avot, always judge on the side of merit. So I think you make a good point that there are lots of types of judgment. I think in this context, I was probably thinking about judging people negatively, but it's a piece of the puzzle that we can also make positive judgments.
I guess since I'm more of an optimist, I don't even want to say I try very hard anymore. I think I'm more likely to notice the positives, and maybe notice is a synonym in other people's minds for judgment. And so I judge, wow, like I love how this person was kind, or this person did something, and maybe it's something that I admire. Do I have moments of negative judgment? Yes, but very quickly, I just say to myself, I don't know their backstory. So I try, as long as I'm safe, not to engage there.
Hmm.
Maybe that's something I've learned over time.
Thank you, Karen. We'll go for Linda and then Joanne.
I made this discovery a while ago that I would like to say I do all the time. And it has to do with when I'm annoyed with someone. I say to myself, have I ever done that? What they're doing that's annoying me so much? And usually I have.
Mhm.
And I like that I know that. I don't like that I don't do it all the time.
I don't like, they don't do it all the time. Okay, it took me a minute to unpack that, but yes. Yes, we would rather do it more often. Yeah, that's an interesting formulation, you know, a way of slowing down and being mindful. I suspect it kind of casts your relationship with that other person in a different light, or you know, whatever thoughts or opinions you might be starting to form about them. So Joanne and then Marianne.
Okay. I'm unmuted. Yeah. I felt like I had to say something. A lot of times I think that my anger comes from being judgmental, and I don't know, I forget who it was already, somebody here said, maybe it was Martin, oh, that's anger, it's not judgment. Well, if I'm telling you it's judgment, okay? It's often anger follows that judgment. And I was also thinking, I recently changed my seat in the synagogue. Just like the driving, it like drives me crazy when I'm trying to listen to the rabbi or the Torah reading. And these two women, it's like they can't wait till after services to talk. Jabba, 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 jabba. And it just distracts me because I'm ADHD. And I just, and then I burst out, and I was like annoyed at everybody. And then I changed my seat, and then I decided I'll keep this seat, which is far away from other people usually, just to avoid that transgression, let's say, of judgment and anger and not being nice to people. But then I lost it later in the day, but we keep trying.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. And it sounds like, you know, that's another level that sometimes it can be kind of painful to be judgmental of other people. It leads to anger. It could lead to, I said something I shouldn't have. And then, you know, so there can be a price to be paid. So we have Marianne and then Paul, I think.
So
Okay.
I think I have two ways of being judgmental. And one is I may look at a person and say, oh, that's not my type of person. I caught myself doing that yesterday. And then I said to myself, you don't know that. And then if I say that to myself, I try to be extra nice and draw that person out. So that's how I kind of counteract it. But I think it's good to be judgmental sometimes because, and maybe this isn't not the right word, but I can think of two instances where I was judgmental. One was when someone had too much to drink, and I said you shouldn't be drinking anymore because she was going to drive. And then another time I blamed myself for being judgmental because I saw these two African American men, and I got a creepy feeling, and I said, "Oh, you're just being prejudiced." Well, it turned out they actually came in and beat me. So I think sometimes you have to listen to your intuition. And if somebody's in danger, you have to judge that they shouldn't be having any more alcohol because they might get in an accident and hurt somebody.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Marianne. I'm so sorry that happened. That sounds like an awful experience. Yeah, absolutely. There are reasons why we have judgments, and there are times when they serve us and are really important. And other times when they may not serve us. Carrie.
I opened up the dictionary to see what the actual in English anyway, in not in the Mussar definition of judge is, and it's to form an opinion about through careful weighing of evidence and testing of premises. It doesn't say negative or positive. It just says to form an opinion. And reading through the rest of it, it never talks about being negative or positive. It's just forming an opinion based on evidence and facts or observations and stuff like that, which I think is interesting because most of the time when we think about judgment, we think of a negative connotation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, so we have Frank or Linda.
So recently I was in Hungary, and being born there, I always, so a little background to me. I've made it my business throughout most of my life to be open to all cultures. So I've been to all kinds of churches, been in all kinds of situations where I felt welcomed and such. But somehow Hungarians, I always have to test them, because are they nyilasok? And nyilasok means, are they fascists or not? And so being in Hungary, I was aware of that. And especially since there's a very strong right-wing government there. So this is an example where, you know, it's survival. You know, for me, it wasn't, African Americans who threatened me. It was people who were, who almost looked like me, but who had this animosity. So just mentioning that this is recently this is my second time returning after 66 years being gone, and I was there with my brother and his family, and I was aware of this, and I couldn't help it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Frank. And we're listening with an open heart to your story. And that's very, very understandable. Paul.
I'm listening with an open heart and really trying to think deeply about what we're talking about. I think Carrie brought up a good point, which is you sort of weighing your evidence, or you form an opinion, and it's neither good nor bad. And in some cases, I'm wondering if discernment is a word that comes in that would be helpful and might be different than judgment. If we're discerning, we're being discerning about whether a situation is appropriate. That may not mean that we're judging people. We're judging a situation. We're just discerning, and we're taking action. So what Frank was talking about, and what Marianne was talking about as well, that there's discernment and then there's judgment. And judgment's forming an opinion about people. Discernment maybe just deciding that action is required for safety purposes. So just wanted to kind of throw that there myself.
Thank you, Paul. I think that's a really great distinction that you brought up. And I think brings us to a good opportunity to segue to our next slide. So we look at our assumptions. One of them is there's a divine spark in everyone, which is occluded by our baggage. And I think someone brought that up. It may have been Carrie, and apologies if it was someone else who was like, oh yeah, well, I try to remember that person has a divine spark. And that is, that's kind of one of the core elements of honor. It's honoring the divine spark in other people. So if we Um, if we play this out a little bit, our first bullet honors the ability to recognize the humanity in other people, feel empathy and treat them with respect, dignity, and even reverence. And this, although judgment can mean a lot of things, when we're just sort of judging other people, we sort of lose sight of their humanity, perhaps. We don't take those steps to actually look at the evidence. I was thinking about Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink, where we as humans make split-second kind of judgments about things. And we can tell, if you're an expert, you can tell in a second whether something is an art forgery or not an art forgery. And we all sort of have these really quick reactions. I think Rabbi Sheila Peltz-Weinberg has a really interesting wrinkle on honor, or she uses the Hebrew word kavod. May I have a volunteer to unmute and read the second bullet, please?
I could do that.
Okay, thank you.
Kavod, honor, is a palpable sense of presence. It is receiving everyone, including ourselves, with ein tovah, a good eye, alive with divine ultimate goodness. We are getting out of the way of the relentless critic and judge.
Great, thank you. So I will, I'll copy this to the chat. But what is Rabbi Peltz-Weinberg teaching us? What is her point? Yeah, Chaya.
Well, as I'm listening, and one of the things that I've learned in my Buddhist practice, which is very similar to this practice, is my immediate, maybe what I need to do, the ein kavod to me is, where is this person? Do I know what they've come to this place with? So, for example, maybe the guy who just cut you off in the highway or whatever, if I'm looking like, oh, is he okay? Is there an emergency he has to go to? It's, so it's looking at it in a different view than he cut me off. I can look at it as, I hope he's okay.
Yeah, that's a wonderful example of honor, of using honor to reframe a situation. Because the reality is, the person who cuts you off in traffic, you're unlikely to ever encounter them again. And so how much of an impact do we want to let them have on our lives? And on a more spiritual level, what is the kind of spiritual residue you would like to leave behind? A residue of, what a jerk, versus, oh, I hope they're okay. It's a very different experience for us and how we interact with the world. Other thoughts? Yes, Karen.
This might be somewhat tangential, but I'm just thinking about the conversations and my responses sometimes, and thinking that there are times, instead of judging others, that I'm judging my response or judging my choices. And I think a lot about how God has given us free will and the ability to choose. And so choosing does mean, and whether you judge or you discern which is the right choice to make, by virtue of the fact that we're the only creatures that can choose, that we have free will for choice, we do make decisions, and all those decisions are some type of judgment. And then I was also thinking that the word judgment, more often than not, at least to me, and I think in this conversation, has more of a negative connotation. So I really liked, I don't remember if it was Frank or Paul brought up another word, such as discernment, which I think can be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Karen. Anyone else want to add here? Yes, Paul.
I think that the receiving everyone, including ourselves, with divine ultimate goodness, and I think it's really important, as we go through life and go through difficult times. For myself, having had my lost my job a couple of weeks ago, it was very tough for the first few days afterwards. And there was certainly a part of me that just wanted to think the worst of everybody at my old company, because, didn't they know what I was bringing? And, I was in the middle of, had a new plan, blah, 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 and they just wouldn't let me do it. And I kept coming back to, well, I don't really know what's going on, because, well, first of all, because I got cut off suddenly, so there's that. But it's not judging myself for having those feelings, and it's not, it's also stepping back and doing my best to receive whatever comes my way as not a personal injury that God is doing to me. It's just, it is something that happens, and then my role is really to find the best way forward.
Another job.
and another job, as my mom says.
Yeah.
Rather than later. Right.
When we're laid off from a job, it's very hard not to take that personally.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, but it is also not a personal injury from God, as you point out. And very often it isn't personal. It's just, we don't know what the full story is. And it's not quite the same as, your basement flooding, but it is sort of one of these things that happens that is unpleasant and we have to deal with sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Marianne.
I think I can see the good in most people, the divine, but there are a few, like if somebody's a pathological liar, I don't know, I have trouble seeing that. I guess it's in there, buried deep somewhere in there. So how do you, I'd be interested to know if anybody knows how you see that.
Yeah, Linda.
Where are you?
We can hear you.
Okay. The most helpful thing for me to do is to turn off the news, because it brings out the worst judgment on my part.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there is a healthy, distancing ourselves from situations that cause judgments, whether you're distancing yourself from driving on Shabbat, and perhaps there's a distancing. I think there are always people who are going to test the boundaries of these. Like, I truly believe that everyone has a divine spark. And as you kind of pointed out, sometimes it seems like it's really, really buried. And it's, can be so deeply buried that it could almost look like maybe it isn't there. And I don't necessarily have all the answers, but it doesn't, we can remember someone has a divine spark, but that doesn't mean they don't need to suffer the consequences of their actions. It doesn't mean they get a free pass to do whatever. They can be treated with dignity and distance. I really like that, I have to say. I should become a writer or something, because that had a nice ring to it. I don't know if that helps, but that was kind of what came to mind. All right, let us, I want to get us into, Joanne, did you have something? Remember to unmute, please. Joanne, you're still muted.
No, I just think in PRK, it says something about giving people the benefit of the doubt. And I wasn't sure if they meant just Jews or everybody. But I found that difficult. Concept.
Yeah, I think the
benefit of the
phrase is
doubt.
edge people to the side of merit. And, you know, for a lot of these lessons, the reason why something like this is repeated again and again and is because it's hard to do. You know, it's hard to do, but I also think that there can be a little bit of a liberation if we can get in the habit. But there is, maybe I'll flash up I'll hear your question in a second, Frank, but I just want to share the spectrum where we can remember that, you know, we don't want to go too far into honoring people. You know, we don't want to flatter people. You know, we don't want to just give people a free pass if, you know, they're behaving in ways that are unethical or whatever. And as I say, you know, I can respect your human dignity and send you to jail at the same time, you know, but I don't want to send you to.
Here's what I found.
Jeez. I somehow managed to trigger the Siri on my watch. That's funny. I was fiddling with it, I guess. But anyway, so that was what I just wanted to remind us, that it's not like we give people the maximum amount of honor no matter what. We want to find that right balance. Frank, was that you who had or Linda?
Yes. One of the things over the holidays that was brought up that I was mindful of when I was a young teenager probably is Abraham and Moses. I mean, not Abraham, I'm sorry. Aaron and Moses.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron's reputation was important to me as a young man. The idea is that you really, it's important to make peace between your, Moses, on the other hand, he had to be a leader. And so he had to kind of a different role. And the other thing that I'm trying to be mindful is that I'm very much of a human being. And I hope that I don't judge more people than people judge me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really kind of try to be mindful about that. It's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah.
But the idea is that just like I will make mistakes, or it's all, both omission and commission.
Yeah.
That others do also.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to be mindful. It's not easy, but it's I try to be mindful of that.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, well, let's get ready to go into our breakout groups. Oops. Here we go. So another great lesson from Pirkei Avot: who is wise? One who learns from every person. And so for discussion, maybe what are some of the people that it's hard for you to learn from? You know, and is it possible to both judge someone and learn from them? So I will copy this into the chat. And then we'll get the breakout rooms going. Okay, so the rooms are open. Hey, welcome back. So I would love to hear, did you have any insights? What did you come up with? You know, are there some types of people where it's harder to kind of learn from than others? And of course there are, but there'll be different types of people for different ones of us. Paul.
One thing that we talked about was that sometimes the thing that we learn from our interactions with other people is not going to be like, oh, they have wisdom hidden behind this front that I can't get past sometimes, but more understanding that they're really hurting in being the way that they are, that behind that is loneliness or sadness or pain or something like that. And that helps us to sort of stand back and think about how other people that we have difficult times with might have this as well. But it's not just they're being, excuse my French, assholes, but they're really, they're just, they can't get out of their own way. So it's not learning from a person, it's more learning about maybe myself or learning about other people in that way. So
I
Thank
just
you,
want to
Paul.
say real quick, Paul, thanks so much for teaching me French. I didn't know that I knew French. Sorry, I had to go there.
Stephanie. So remember to unmute, please.
Sorry, in my group, I think it was a really good reminder to hear we are all doing the best we can at
Mhm.
any moment. And I forget that all the time because anger will just take over and I don't even think about, who is this person that I'm having this interaction with? And, I don't know them. Should I even be reacting this way? So I really appreciate that comment that we're all just doing the best we can.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And it's reminding me that, the most important to divine spark to recognize is the one in ourselves. And that even, when we're doing the best we can, and when we get angry, we miss the mark, we screw up, whatever, to really be kind and compassionate to ourselves. Yes, Chaya.
Yeah, and with that kindness and compassion, I think that that's what I was talking about is that can I give that kindness and compassion to the person who's, that I am thinking is making me suffer, making me jump off the, whatever, when it's actually me and what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. So if I can go out there with that compassion instead and realize that I am creating my own suffering in doing that, getting upset and whatever. And it's like, it's not about me.
Mm. Thank you, Chaya. Joanne.
Yeah, I think what Chaya just said is important. I think being compassionate to ourselves, giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt. I was saying also that, some of the people I have problems with, it changes when they're nicer to me and nicer to them, or if they say something positive, okay, good. But if they don't, and I feel like I'm not getting, it's like Rodney Dangerfield, I don't get any respect from these people because they think I'm manipulable or, whatever. I mean, that sort of hurts, but as long as I'm okay with what I'm doing, and I got a lot of practice to do, but I think that's really important. Self-preservation. That's it.
Thank you, Joanne. Other comments?
For a minute.
You know, I was listening to you talk, I was reminded,
Okay.
so in my internship now, I'm working in a bereavement department at a hospice, and I'm co-facilitating a group of parents who've lost their spouse and are still raising a child. So it's, you know, it's some heavy stuff, and it's also very just amazing to see how people support one another. But there was, you know, I noticed this habit in myself where, like, these are all parents, right? So in addition to all of the other stuff, it's like it's back to school night. So not everyone comes every week, and somebody missed like a couple weeks in a row. And so like there's this automatic reaction in my head, you know, oh, I must have done something. I mean, I hardly talk, you know, I'm a co-facilitator. There's a trained therapist who's running the group. I chime in here and there, but it was like, oh, my one comment to this person, maybe they're not coming back because of that. And that's like, and I'm happy to say that I'm sort of observing those thoughts from a distance, instead of there are other circumstances where I get like, oh my God, you know, I go shame spiral about the whole thing. And that's kind of a little bit honor related. It's like giving, you know, it's like not giving them credit for having a life that doesn't revolve around me. You know what I mean? It's like as if they're at this group to kind of find companionship and comfort, um, and understanding and a safe space. So as if one offhand comment from me could just be like, forget it, I'm not going there. So I'm pleased that at least I could recognize within myself that tendency and not sort of get caught up in it. So I see Joanne and then Karen. So we'll need to go a little bit speed round because we're in our last 5 minutes. Joanne, you can remember unmute, please. We still don't hear you. All right, well, let's go to Karen, and we'll come back to Joanne.
The comments,
forgot.
Greg, the comments that
here.
you made had me thinking about just being available to learn. You know, raising children with special needs, I had to find when that child or those children were available to hear me. And so I think even in a bereavement group, you said people come in for different reasons. We need to find out, are they available to hear what we want to say, or are they there for a different purpose? And that's what I want to share.
Thank you. Joanne, I see you're off mute now.
Yeah, but I forgot what I wanted to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, well.
It wasn't too important.
All right. Well, as we're getting ready to close for the week, whoops, that is the wrong window to share. Sorry, I think I'm a little jet lagged today. I want to share the actions. The mantra for a week is find the good in anyone. And maybe we'll do our closing meditation. I'll just kind of we'll start the meditation, then I'll read the actions and see if one kind of resonates with you or inspires you to something that you might try this week. So once again, please close your eyes and get comfortable in the chair. And take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And allow these potential ways to practice honor to roll past you and see which resonate with you. Look for the divine spark in every person you meet. Look for the good when you notice yourself judging. Greet others before they greet you. Eliminate one shaming behavior. Write a list of people who you will either treat with more honor or with less honor. Allow your mind to clear. Allow these ideas to settle. And see what might surface for you is something to look at and to try over the next week. Give me something small. Something so small you can't possibly fail. Even if it doesn't go perfectly, that's okay. You'll be okay either way. And now let's take a moment to just share honor and affection and compassion for all of those who've been together with us in this journey this afternoon or evening. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Friends, thank you so much for being here. I will look forward to seeing you again next week for our second week of exploring honor. Wishing you an early Shabbat Shalom and a good week.
Can I just ask a question?